Hello, welcome back to Asian Cinema Season 2 and another episode, another installment of Conquering My Collection. It's slow going, but tonight I'm going to tick off another Blu-ray from my collection, a film that I've never seen, and I'm going to watch it and give you my brief movie vlog-esque thoughts on it. And this one is an anime film called HAL. And Connie saw this in my room the other day and she said, well, when did you get that Blu-ray? No, she, I don't know what that was, I'm sorry. She said, when did you get that? And I said, oh, I got it in a sale from All the Anime a couple of years ago, I think it was. Maybe it was last year even. And she said, it looks like a hentai. And minor aside, when I was in the backyard wrestling community many years ago, there was a wrestler, and he's never going to live this down. He wanted someone in the community to draw a picture of him in his wrestling kind of attire, but in like kind of a Japanese anime style. But he phrased it as, can someone draw a hentai of me in my wrestling attire? So whenever I hear the term hentai, it jumps to that memory of that kind of poor young boy who had no idea what he was really saying and how hilarious it was to all of us. Anyway, I can see where she's coming from. This is a very kind of anime, cover. It's a very, the big eyes and everything, very stylized. And this is an hour-long movie about a young girl whose boyfriend dies, and she is given a replacement in the form of a robot. And I couldn't resist a story like this. I'm so concerned with, not concerned with, but how do I phrase it? I'm really drawn into, it's kind of a concern to me to mop up all kind of like stories that deal with grief and losing a loved one that I can, because I'm writing a book, or I've written a book many years ago. I'm trying to write the second draft of that book that's all about grief and losing a loved one and how you deal with it, how you cope. And this obviously is a very science fiction-y version of that, where what would you do if it was possible to bring your loved one back from the dead, but not in a kind of in a real form, but in an artificial form? And would that be enough for you? Would you be able to handle it? And I've got no idea really how this story tackles that theme, which is very much a science fiction theme. But I guess you could maybe relate a story like this to the real world, in the sense of someone who maybe had a lot of video footage of the person that they've lost, and they just spend their time with that footage and trying to like kind of cling on to this kind of artificial vessel for them. But in a story like this, it's very clearly like a almost living, breathing thing right in front of them that embodies the spirit and memory of who they had before, but it isn't them at the same time. So this might be kind of a cutesy kind of anime tale where it's it's all kind of nice and fun and romantic, and she falls in love with the robot. I don't know, but I'm intrigued. I am intrigued, and I was drawn in by the story, and I just like seeing how people take a story like that and how they tell it. I like seeing storytellers play around with that theme of just grief and loss. And I think I've rambled in a very weird way with this one. This intro should have taken like a minute, not like 5 minutes. Okay, so this is directed by Ryotaro Makihara, who I've never heard that name before. So this isn't like a Mamoru Hosoda or a Makoto Shinkai or a Studio Ghibli kind of. Oh, it says from the studio that brought you Attack on Titan. I did not know that. I know Attack on Titan is a very popular anime show and kind of franchise at this point. I've seen the first episode of that with my cousin Ben many years ago, and this came out in 2013. So anyway, I'm going to get cracking on with this, see what I think of it. I really like the artwork on this. I mean, I get Connie's point. It does seem, well, okay, maybe I don't. It doesn't look like hentai, but it's very, very anime-esque. It has all the trappings from the way that it looks. And I don't always love the way that kind of stereotypical anime looks either. So I'll be intrigued to see if it's a good story, and also if I can get past kind of the visuals of it being very cutesy and stuff. So anyway, let's get on with HAL, and I wonder whether that's an intentional choice to kind of evoke the feelings of HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's artificial intelligence, right? So it must be that. It has to be a reference. So on with the film. Alright, I'm done with HAL. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this one. It's a film. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know where to start with this one. This is a pretty good film. It's a nice release too. Nice. Oh, is this like a? Let me just see about the booklet here. I wasn't sure if this was like based on a manga or something. Because in the inside of the booklet we have. Okay, no, we just have. It just seemed like there was a. I thought it might have been based on a manga or something. Anyway, oh, this is interesting now, because this is like a little. Now we can reveal the secret story of the production of HAL. So it's like an interview with the people who made the movie, and that this might give me some more context of the film itself. Maybe I should read this before I even begin to start talking. I don't know, how long is it? Fairly long. Yeah, I'm intrigued here. I'll just give you my general thoughts first. So, HAL, yeah, it's a good little movie. I'm kind of oddly moved by it. I feel like I shouldn't be, because I don't think that it was great. Very maudlin, you know. It leans into kind of melodrama, particularly in one moment, very heavily, and it kind of was, you know. I kind of get repelled by stuff like that, but at the same time, I am a very easy person to get touched by things. You know, I'm moved quite easily, I think, and while it didn't fully move me, it didn't, like, the whole story didn't lodge itself in my head and make me feel really connected to the characters in the story. Overall, there was a feeling of, you know, sadness, I think. You know, there's just... And I'm pausing a lot in this. I feel like this is a bad video, to be honest with you, but I'm going to just leave it as it is. Yeah. So it revolves around this robot at the beginning of the movie who's fishing around in this stream. This beautiful, picturesque stream in the countryside, and then up in a house overlooking the stream, we see a number of men kind of in traditional clothing, dyeing clothes, again in a very traditional kind of old-fashioned way. And then that's contrasted very starkly with this young robot who is like completely kind of featureless, you know, very kind of like sleek metal, and just very curiously kind of, you know, playing around in the water. And so immediately you get this kind of weird feeling of like, what's going on here? And then we see this plane flying overhead, and it just begins to slowly ripple and explode. And the old man who was dyeing the clothes, again, kind of in contrast to the very traditional kind of setting that we've kind of been thrown into, pulls like a smartphone out of his pocket and is just completely, you know, shocked and collapses. And so we learn that this boy, HAL, has passed away. He was in the plane accident, and so it is, you know, he's left his girlfriend, whose name is Kurumi. And Kurumi, she, and I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but she is completely devastated by this. She's now a shut-in. She won't do anything. And so the old man, who I believe is her grandfather, he asks the robot, will you become HAL? Will you kind of make yourself human to kind of help her. And so he becomes, the kind of the spitting image of who Hal used to be. And he goes to see Kurumi, and she, very understandably is not interested in this robotic, synthetic version of her former partner. He's not the real thing, he's artificial. And of course the film is about her warming to him and so on. But what I really liked, because at first I kind of didn't like that we never got a sense of who Hal and Kurumi were as a couple, because the movie just opens with his death, and it's kind of off screen as well. And so, you don't get a sense of what her relationship with him was like. But then we see her playing around with this little button that shows her memories and video clips and things. And it's kind of an interesting little mystery box unto itself. And so she's, and also more about her relationship with Hal peels away as the film progresses. And I really liked that. So it ended up being something that at the beginning I thought was a weakness, but actually became a strength. Because then that gives you kind of like the story isn't so dramatic as to make you wonder, how is this going to end? It's more a case of, what was the story behind, everything that is leading up to where we're picking up her story. We don't get her with her boyfriend, we get her with the artificial replacement. So, nice little gimmicks show us little pieces of what her relationship was like with Hal to begin with. And it doesn't necessarily paint a kind of, a happy portrait of a relationship, which really surprised me. There's this recurring theme of these Rubik's Cubes, which I know Connie would really enjoy, and she very much remarked on that on the cover. She's like, oh, it's a 5x5. Connie is an avid Rubik's Cuber, and so that was interesting how that was kind of weaved into it, and there were like messages on the colored cubes, so if you configure it to the right kind of and get one side completely in the same color, you can get like a certain message. And so Hal, the robot Hal, is sorting through all the different configurations and finding all these different messages, and those kind of leading him and leading his way into trying to help Kurumi kind of, I don't know, accept him in some way, shape or form. And you start to wonder, is he falling for her as a robot? Is he getting any kind of feelings for her? Does he feel emotions? There's a scene where he sees her and he says, you look beautiful, Kurumi. And you think, is he saying that because he knows she wants to hear it, or is he saying it because he truly believes it? Is he becoming more human by the act of, relating to and being close to another human like that, where the expectation is placed upon him to be this kind of, human comfort? Which is a really interesting idea. And ultimately I feel like the film is a little bit hamstrung by the 60-minute running time. I feel like this could have been a really great, maybe, 90-minute, hour 45 movie, maybe even a 2-hour movie. Really dig into all those details and the depth and the layers, because there is a big twist in the third act, and it's really what? It really took me aback, and there's little clues to it here and there, and it really changes a lot of things with the characters and how you perceive them, and I really love the twist, but I'm still not sure if it entirely works. I'm retroactively thinking of the whole movie framed within the context of that twist, and I'm not sure that it makes the most sense to me. But I don't tend to get too hung up on those kinds of details. I mean, the feeling of it is really almost the most important thing, and the feeling is very bittersweet, and it got me, at the end, I wasn't choked up or anything, but it certainly is a very sad movie, it's really tough, and I just wish we had more of it. I really would have liked to have seen this expanded upon, and I'm not sure if it was kind of a budgetary thing, they only had enough money to do an hour-long movie, or whether that's the kind of concise story they wanted to tell. Maybe the booklet will give me some more information on that, but as it is, the twist really surprised me for sure, and it recontextualizes the entire film really, and it's and I liked it. I liked the twist. I liked the way we end the film, but it's a tough pill to swallow, I think, whichever way you slice it. I think my favorite part of the film was very simple, almost throwaway line by Kurumi. She's talking to the robot HAL, and she says, and she's kind of showing him the memories that she has in these clips of the real HAL, and she's looking at it, and the robot HAL is saying like, so you had problems with him basically, and she's saying, I think I just didn't understand him enough. I wish I'd been better at trying to understand him. And we do learn that Hal had a little bit of a troubled childhood. And so again, the beginning of the film, it just seems like the perfect boyfriend dies and now she has to be consoled, and it becomes a lot deeper than that. And this was a very troubled young man, and so again, I would have liked to have seen more of that, but she's showing the robot Hal these memories and she's saying, I should have tried to understand him. And then she just says, out of the blue, I wish the understanding feelings was as clear as a number. And it was probably put a little bit more eloquently than that. I'm not quoting that verbatim, but it's a great kind of, I don't know, nugget of wisdom. Well, not even nugget of wisdom. There's no wisdom to it, but it's like it really sharply cuts into that very human problem of trying to understand each other's feelings and emotions. I think it's really impossible to put yourself inside someone's head and feel exactly what they're going through. You can get really close to understanding, but there's always going to be that slight disconnect. It's never going to fully align to how the other person's really feeling. And she's saying, if only it was as simple and as clear as a number. A number is what it is. There's no getting around it. The number 8 is the number 8. It's no more, it's no less, and we can point to it and we can say that is the number 8. It is what it is, right? But feelings are just never that simple. So there's some really good ideas in this film, but I do feel like it could have been longer, and I would have liked more depth and things not explained, but kind of, there's a few things in the first half of the film I'm not sure why they're happening, given the twist that happens towards the end. But and so in a sense it also feels a little bit rushed. But it is one I go back to for sure, and I am intrigued to kind of, I think there's a few extras on here. There's a commentary with the actors, or it says actor commentary, so it might just be one actor, I'm not too sure. Hell, I have the menu up right now. Why don't I just have a look and see what's on the Blu-ray. Actor commentary. Select, it doesn't say anything, so I guess it just jumps right in. I'm assuming it's in Japanese, and
welcome to the commentary. First up, I have HAL himself in here with me. Introduce yourself for those listening.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Chris Burnett, and I play HAL in this role, thanks to the man Mike McFarlane.
yeah, sorry, no offense, but I really have zero interest in the English dub voice cast commentary. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's too harsh, but I don't know. Yeah, that's not really interesting to me. Just turn this down again. There's a making of the production process. I haven't even talked about the animation. God, this is becoming such a long video. I thought that this would be like, it's an hour-long film. I can do like a 5 to 10 minute video on it. It's just like a Japanese. Okay, it's like a Japanese featurette. That's good. I'd like to dive into this stuff, but I'll leave it there for now. But yeah, the animation feels very modern. There's definitely the kind of digital play going on there. Some of the backgrounds on the water very digital. I like kind of the digital water. It looks very nice and shimmery, and lights refracting off it and all that kind of stuff. The character design's very modern anime, but there's a few shots in the film that are absolutely stunning. There's just one of her garden at like the kind of golden hour lighting. Oh my god, beautiful stuff. It's not like that throughout the whole film. It's not like a Makoto Shinkai film where every frame is just like mouth-wateringly beautiful, but it has its moments. And there is a kind of moment towards the third act where a bit of an action scene, not too much, but like people are running after each other, and the limitations really show. Like that's when it doesn't fall apart, but it, the film is very much dealing with slow movements and emotions and kind of quiet scenes with characters. There's not too much craziness going on visually. So when some characters start running after each other and kind of pushing each other over, it's very like janky, and like the movement is a bit off. And yeah, I feel like the people who made this maybe weren't too experienced in that kind of animation, or it was a choice. It very well might have been a stylistic choice. but it was just a bit, yeah, it felt a bit, I don't know. And in a way you could look at it and maybe think it's a bit cheap. Even like the colouring of like clothes and even some of the hair would get patchy as as the kind of a scene is going along. So every frame it would kind of just like, it would look a bit weird. And I don't know whether that was just like they poorly coloured it, or whether that too was a stylistic choice. I don't know why it would be, but there were certain like flaws in the film in that sense for me. And given the fact that it's an hour long, I wonder if it is one of those kind of cheaper things, and it might have been kind of a cost-effective thing. And that can certainly be seen in the way that, you know, CGI is used for kind of certain things, and a fully hand-drawn kind of traditional version of this would probably cost a lot more because it would take a lot longer to do. But anyway, but I do think that the animation was pretty good, but definitely it showed its weaknesses here and there. But you know, ultimately the story is the main thing that matters, and I really did enjoy the story. So I'm going to leave it there unless I read the booklet and find something interesting that I want to talk about. But that has been another episode and installment of Conquering My Collection, and HAL has been conquered. I honestly thought this would be one to not keep in the collection, but I actually am going to keep this one in the collection because I really liked it, and I would definitely like to watch it again. But it is a very sad film, so I don't know. And yeah, just overall I think it doesn't quite come together, and it feels a bit rushed and things, but it has a heart to it, and I appreciate that. And there's also another bit I really enjoy. It's not that I enjoy it, but it's like, as I said at the beginning, I'm concerned with films and stories that deal with grief and loss, and ultimately this film didn't quite dig into that in any kind of deep way. It is mentioned, and it is kind of the kind of culmination of the film is how someone tries to move on from that. But it kind of glosses it over a bit, I think, at the end of the film. It kind of rushes to a conclusion of how you deal with loss. But there is a really nice sentiment from the grandfather who says that, you know, when it comes to him and people that he's lost, you know, they're with him, they're by his side all the time, and you know, he talks to them every day. And you know, Hal says, well, how do you do that? And he says, well, I'll just say, you know, isn't it like a nice day today? And Hal says, well, you're not talking to them, you're talking to yourself. And he said, well, maybe, you know. That was nice. I like that. That was a nice little sentiment. So anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It's alright by me. Apart from the fact he throws cans of Carlin into a tree. Yeah, he's really cool. Yeah, he's really cool. But he's not quite as cool as you, 'cause